That's the lesson that you take from this. Don't ever, ever, ever give up on someone.
When it comes down to it, it's a very difficult sport.
I enjoy the people that are here.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Welcome to Community Closeup. I'm Joe Nelson. With Veterans Day this month, we take to the skies and talk to World War II vets, sharing old memories and making new ones. The holiday season is approaching, and we meet a family who tells us why it's so important to celebrate safely. We look at one of the best football teams Coon Rapids ever had and explain why they never had a chance to put their names in the history books. But first, this year's Coon Rapids squad ended its season earlier than they had hoped, but a senior center who only played one game made a major impact. After discovering a brain disorder, Eastons Story watched many of the games from a hospital bed, but learned it wasn't just the fans in the stands there to support him.
It's been nothing but football. Every year, every day, whether it's weight training, going to camps.
Over the past 7 years, Eastons Sorensen's time and energy has been devoted to the game of football.
It worked out all the time. I mean, did whatever I could.
Over the summer, he really improved his shotgun snaps and his pass protection, which was something I needed to work on from last year, so he really progressed.
Playing the game did come at a cost. Easton took some lumps, suffering concussion symptoms, and last year, a hit to the eye needed cataract surgery, but nothing kept his shoulder pads off for long.
And he was playing really well over the summer, playing well during our fall practices, and leading up to the Elk River game, he was doing really well, did fine in the scrimmage.
In that scrimmage, the Coon Rapids High School starting center took a hit and lost some vision in his left eye. Things improved, and he scheduled a doctor's appointment after the first game the following week. With the eyes of college scouts on him, Easton was ready for a big season. The August sky blackened as seconds ticked off, and the bright lights weren't enough for Easton to keep darkness away.
I mean, it's pain. It's temporary. It'll go away, right? And so I dealt with that and played over half the game without vision in my left eye.
He took a shot and he said that he couldn't see out of his left eye. And I was like, what do you mean you can't see? He's like, I can't see at all. And I was like, well, you should stop playing. Like, that's so serious. And he's like, no, I'm going to stay in. I'm not letting them put somebody else in to try and protect you. And he basically played the rest of the game just to make sure that I'd be safe.
And I wouldn't let anybody, especially another team, I wouldn't let anybody hurt him, so I would keep playing no matter what I had to go through to keep him safe.
Easton and his family took steps to ensure his own safety the next day by going to the doctor's office to find out what was happening.
They did an MRI, an MRA, an MRV. I mean, he was in a machine. He was in some kind of a machine all afternoon. And they brought the MRI back and found out that he had Chiari malformation. And what that is, it's where your brain grows more than your skull does. So it was forcing his cerebellum down into his spinal cord, and it was shutting off the flow of spinal fluid. So when he would be weight training, when he would be playing football and get all jazzed up or take a hit, it would shut off the spinal fluid and was putting pressure on his optic nerve, which was causing blindness. It also caused migraines too.
It's something I was born with and developmentally over time. Well, my skull quit growing and my brain kept growing. They ended up sending us to one doctor and he sent us to another, and every doctor kept saying, no, well, you're not going to be able to play anymore.
He was crushed. He was just crushed because it has never been a thought that he wasn't going to play football. I mean, he's a big, strong kid. Went into the senior year, he was 6'2", 275. And that's all he's ever wanted to do.
Right away it was kind of, disappointment of not being able to play anymore. And then once I kind of got over the disappointment of not being able to play, then it got into, well, geez, what could have happened?
Football was not the cause of his Chiari malformation, but the game helped him discover he had it. So in late September, Easton underwent surgery to release pressure in his brain and says had it gone unnoticed, another form of head trauma later could have made his life much more difficult.
Instead of, maybe going blind during that game, I could have been paralyzed. So it was kind of hard to deal with right away. Everybody says football is their life. Football is everything that they're about. And, not many people can say it actually saved their life.
Doctors said there would be a positive outcome. A full recovery with no long-term damage or vision problems were expected, giving Easton a chance at a normal life, only having to avoid contact sports.
There's so many people that have Chiari that didn't find it out at the time that he did. He was very fortunate. There's no permanent damage.
Easton would never battle Anoka or Blaine again, but the Sorensen family began a new fight against Chiari malformation, learning more about it and meeting others who have it. Over the past 3 months, Easton has been in and out of the hospital, but friends have never been far away.
I've been down there as many times as possible, just bringing him food and Taco Bell and stuff, and just making him feel like he's still part of the team.
And we've been here over 2 weeks. There has not been one day that we haven't had his teammates here, his coaches here, and they're constantly contacting him with social media.
On the first day of surgery, there were 7 players here just to make sure I was okay.
Easton says it was just another example of the family bond formed between teammates, known as the Brotherhood of Cardinals.
Brotherhood of Cardinals is our oath that our kids take and our promise that we will be selfless football players and selfless citizens in the community.
It's a family. I mean, we're all together through no matter what, even though our season hasn't been very good. You look over there and our morale is still high. We're all for each other, all trying to get the best out of each other.
Easton is the epitome of BOC in that he will do literally anything for anybody else.
We may just be teammates to everybody else, but we're brothers. I mean, I get guys coming in here, and every time they leave, they tell me they love me. It's something special. It's a bond that can't be broken.
Start 1st and 10 from their own 20-yard line. Pitch, and he fumbled it, and Andover has it at the 15.
The Cardinals formed a tighter bond, rallying around Easton, but unfortunately that didn't translate into wins on the field. Coach John Young and Easton found an escape from their challenges, not from the sidelines, but over the phone line.
I get 5 minutes where I just get to hang out and talk to Easton, or 10 minutes. How are you doing? What's going on? And he tells me his story every day. And then I realize that A, this kid is really cool. He's pretty special. B, he's got an unbelievable outlook on life. And C, my life is not too bad or too hectic considering what that kid is going through. So I need a dose of Easton every day. It really, it makes me feel a lot better.
Look out, Jake. Drop the hips, Dwight.
I know it lightens my mood tremendously, but I can tell just from the start of the conversation to the end of the conversation, it changes his whole entire demeanor. I can tell.
Despite his best efforts that included getting stitches with no pain medication, Easton wasn't able to return to the sidelines for senior night, but he wasn't forgotten.
And we watched CTN. We've live streamed the games that he's been in here. So he knows that they're with him. They had signs up. They had his number painted on the field. It was really cool.
It's very important for me to watch the games. It'd be amazing if I could go to be at a game.
Easton's condition improved, and he was released from Abbott Northwestern Hospital in mid-October. The next week, he found new inspiration at a youth football clinic. He met former Vikings linebacker E.J. Henderson, who could relate to Easton, knowing what it's like to be separated from the game by a serious injury.
It's really a connection that you can only make with very few people. We had a good talk, compared our injury stories. It was a pretty good time. It was really helpful.
Easton returned to school and a normal life he hadn't seen in months, with one more chance to be with his team in Maple Grove for the Cardinals' last game of the year.
It means the world to me. It's been my life for I don't know how long, as I can remember. It's the little things in life that you miss, and this is one that I missed a lot, being able to be back with the team and back with my friends and being able to be out on my own and kind of have freedom, and it's pretty sweet. It's a good feeling.
Easton has considered going into coaching, but knows his options are nearly unlimited to decide his future. Still still to come. Their season ended 33 years ago, but no one will ever know what they could have accomplished. Stay with us. After years of success, the 1981 Coon Rapids High School football team was ready to take their squad to the next level. A threat to the season loomed and grew stronger each week, and the team learned its fate at the last second. It's a season players don't talk about, but will never forget.
They just went on the field and they expected to win.
We had a very good 78 team. We had a very good 79 team. We had just a lot of lunch pail players. They all came and they played hard.
The Coon Rapids Cardinals knew their 1981 football roster had the right mix of talent and determination to be successful.
It all started like in the captain's practices, a couple weeks before the coaches would get us. We had a real good work ethic and a real good cohesion between each other.
Ron Scott had really created just an outstanding atmosphere here at Coon Rapids for football.
We were one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the state without a doubt.
The Cardinals passed their first test of the year, beating Forest Lake by 2 touchdowns. The next week, in a come-from-behind thriller with less than a minute remaining, the offense kept the chains moving, leading to a game-winning touchdown, beating Kellogg 13-10.
We just refused to lose.
Tight end Tom Copa and linebacker John Scott, who now live in Texas and Oklahoma, shared their memories with us through video calls.
Came up on the varsity as a sophomore and started at linebacker. They were strong across the board. The guys would be in the huddle on that last drive, smacking each other on the head, saying, "We can't lose, we gotta win," and getting crazy. And we go out and snap the ball and just roll over the defense. It was pretty amazing.
Coon Rapids kept rolling, winning their first 5 games of the year. But as the team was building momentum to get to where it wanted to be, so were their teachers.
There was a labor dispute that was going on basically all fall, and then we didn't know when the head of the unions were going to call for a strike vote, and it just happened at a very, very unfortunate time.
According to the Coon Rapids Herald, the teachers union, then known as the Anoka-Hennepin Education Association, asked the district to raise its starting teachers' salaries to $16,000, but the district would only offer $12,000. Teachers traded their chalk for picket signs, leaving hallways and classrooms empty throughout District 11.
You couldn't cross the picket lines, and so we had to stay away. And
they had a coach all lined up to go play to coach them. Dan Drexler, who was coaching at Anoka Ramsey.
But we really took it upon ourselves to take control of the team.
And we went out and were ready to execute.
It's almost like that us against the world mentality.
To avoid a possible forfeit, the Cardinals prepared for their biggest game of the year off school grounds.
Irondale was undefeated. We were undefeated.
They knew the winner of the game against Irondale High School would likely win the conference, with a trip to the playoffs essentially on the line.
You had to win the conference in order to go to the state playoffs.
With everything in place to keep the season alive, the Cardinals' hopes were blitzed, not by opponents in shoulder pads, but by men in suits.
That was probably the hardest thing I ever had to do in coaching, was to tell that team
that game was going to be canceled.
It was a good kick in the stomach, that's for sure.
They made you forfeit the game. That was how it was.
Undefeated season going, and it was taken away from them from situations that they couldn't control.
Once we knew we had to forfeit a game, we kind of figured we wouldn't be in the playoffs.
Anger from students spilled onto the sidewalks, with signs and solidarity spreading from seniors to sophomores.
Now you're talking not just a team, but now you're talking the student body coming together. So you had a couple thousand kids in that school at that time. We understood that the teachers were doing something for themselves, which they needed to do. This was the way to do it. We kind of look at that District 11 administrative staff and kind of look at them as, just let us play. What was the big deal at that point?
The ire that, at least that I have and that my teammates have, was with the administration, specifically with the school board superintendent who canceled the games.
Then Superintendent Lewis Finch made the call to cancel the game, knowing it meant a forfeit. We made the call to him to find out why.
About the day before the game, I received a call from the police and also from the officials that were scheduled to officiate the game. And they had been threatened by somebody, they didn't know who it was, which said, you dare officiate this game, something's going to happen to you. They had asked for police protection the night of that football game. So I called the 3 principals, Anoka, Blaine, and Coon Rapids, called the 3 principals together and said to them, there isn't a high school football game in America worth risking the safety of people. And this game is not going to be played. Decided it wasn't worth it. I'd do it again today.
Coach Ron Scott says he never heard that explanation, and his son John says it's no excuse, feeling the team was used as a bargaining chip during salary negotiations.
You cannot base things off threats. You have to base things off factual things that you found evidence to. And if he wants to justify that in his mind, that's fine. But I'm older now, and I understand the big picture. They'll put the people at risk to get what the bigger organization wants. And that's what happened to the team.
After 2 weeks, the strike ended with a compromise that would give teachers a starting salary of $14,000 and other increased benefits. The Cardinals went on to play and win 2 more games, but with 2 forfeits in the books and Irondale winning out, the damage was done and the season was over.
It's a damn shame that we weren't allowed to play that game. And I think it was a short-sighted, ill-conceived decision on the part of the superintendent to not allow that game to happen.
Today, with nearly every team in the state making the playoffs, 2 losses would only drop a team's seeding.
I knew I was going to have another team the next year, but it was the players that I felt bad about.
The next year was a good one, but ended with a first-round loss in the playoffs. The Cardinals' fortune changed in 1983.
The '83 team had an exceptional throwing team, and we were good in all phases.
These Cardinals wouldn't be stopped, winning the state title. They're only to this day. The lone sophomore from the '81 team, John Scott's final taste of victory 2 years later was bittersweet.
Bob, Coon Rapids will play this football game without All-State linebacker John Scott. We told you about him in the first half. He went out and the trainers were checking his shoulder. It has been separated. His shoulder separated. The All-State linebacker will not play this football game.
That's life, but the great thing was the team came through. Winning the championship of our senior year really kind of only validated the fact that we're a very strong football team, a very strong football program.
Copa and Satzinger, who would go on to play professionally in basketball and baseball, watched from afar.
Initially, you're happy, and you start to think back, boy, it should have been us too. We like to say that we kind of maybe paved the way for them. Of course, they're not going to buy that.
There's been some good-natured ribbing about it, but I was thrilled for those guys. Of course, I would have loved to have been on a team that did that, but that's not how it worked out.
A banner hangs at the Coon Rapids High School to remember what the 1983 team accomplished. Members of the 1981 team will never know what could have been.
I think we could have gone a long way.
You wonder what would have happened on the field of play, and those kind of things just stick with you.
But lessons learned and memories made on and off this field can never be taken away.
It was probably a good learning experience. Probably not one that we really wanted to experience, but I think it all helped us in the long run.
There were guys on my high school football team that I've been playing athletics with since I was 4. So that's 14 out of 18 years. That's 75% of your life that you've been playing on the same team as these guys, and you just can't replace that ever.
The son of John Scott, who is the grandson of Coach Ron Scott, is a teammate of Tom Copa's son at the University of Tulsa on their football team. They get to see each other at the games each fall, but the 1981 season is never discussed. Up next, a family is sending a message about drinking and driving for the coming holiday season after one man's decision changed their family forever. We'll be right back. November is one of the most dangerous times on the road with the start of the holiday season, work parties, and family get-togethers. Police say alcohol and drug use means more crashes. Bao Vang shares how an Anoka County family's holidays will never be the same, all because of one drunk driver.
The Calistro family enjoys spending holidays together, and Easter of 2009 was no different. Michael Calistro and his wife of nearly 40 years, Carol, and their daughter's family were over at his oldest daughter's home to celebrate.
My mom had said that night before she left, this was the best Easter ever.
It would also be the last Easter Sunday they would spend together.
The phone rang then. It was my sister, and she didn't say anything, and I just dropped the phone and got in my car. I I knew something was wrong.
Gina followed the familiar sound of a blaring car horn, one that she would soon find out belonged to her mom's car. There on Lexington Avenue between 35W and 242 in Blaine, she came across this.
When I first approached it, I thought my entire family had been affected by this accident because my sister was parked there, my mom and dad's car was there, and this truck was there. It was a scene I'll never forget.
The couple was hit head-on by a wrong-way driver.
My dad held her airway open until the paramedics got there because he knew, having that medical background and that emergency response background, that if he didn't hold her airway open, she would have died on the scene.
Michael Callistro's quick thinking was a result of years serving in the military, then as an officer on the Minneapolis Police Department for 30 years. They were taken to the hospital, but not before her dad used his cop's intuition to give responding officers clues as to what may have caused the crash.
He had asked the Blaine police officers in a very stern Italian fashion to take that man to the hospital to get a blood alcohol test.
Repeat offender 48-year-old Robert DeMuth was found with a .35 BAC, more than 4 times the legal limit. Carol Callistro slowly recovered from her injuries and was moved to a rehab center. And Gina's dad seemed to be okay at first.
He got to the hospital without serious injuries, but acquired acute respiratory distress syndrome. Okay. So he was on life support for a couple of weeks twice.
But he did get better.
He was very much planning for the future. He was going to have a pasta dinner for all the police officers that had helped that dinner. He loves to cook.
Then, a few days before his scheduled release, things took a turn for the worse.
He ended up getting hospital-acquired pneumonia from laying down for 62 days, and so and there was nothing they could do at that point.
Michael Callistro died as a result of injuries he suffered in that drunk driving crash. His funeral services had full military and law enforcement honors. Hundreds paid their respects, but there was never an apology from the man whose poor decision took the life of Michael Callistro. Robert DeMuth, a repeat DUI offender, was convicted with criminal vehicular homicide. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison.
I try every holiday religiously on my Facebook page to put the picture of my parents' accident to remind folks to plan ahead.
Coon Rapids Police also want to send a message this holiday season.
We're not saying, once again, don't go out and have a good time. Just be responsible with your choices on how you're going to get home.
Officers received a grant from the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration to saturate major roadways the week of Thanksgiving, a statistically busy time for drunk and drugged driving.
Usually the beginning of a long weekend. Usually people have 4 days off, so it doesn't, and it's the middle of the week, so typically they start to celebrate.
Since Easter of 2009, holiday celebrations have not been the same for the Callistros. And Gina hopes things have changed for Robert DeMuth, too.
If I could say anything to him is, please tell me you've quit drinking. Because if taking a man's life who meant so much to so many people didn't change your bad habit, I don't know what will.
For Community Closeup, Bao Vang.
Hear from World War II veterans who had a chance to see old friends once again, but know these opportunities may not be around for long. Coming up. Veterans Day is November 11th, but many got a chance to pay their respects to the greatest generation when World War II glider pilots and crew members made a stop at the Anoka County Airport in Blaine last month. Although their numbers have dwindled, the vets got a chance to soar through the sky once again in a familiar way.
Well, the main mission was the Rhine crossing into Germany.
Most of the missions were gas, fuels, resupply for Patton's army.
Nearly 70 years removed from the Second World War, the men who served from above traveled thousands of miles to see familiar faces. Of 6,000 glider pilots in the war, less than 200 remain, and 20 made their way to the Anoka County Blaine Airport in October as part of their 44th annual reunion.
This is something that won't happen again in my lifetime, to have this many in one spot. Their reunion takes place at different locations around the country. So we're very pleased and happy to have them here.
Meeting at the Golden Wings Museum, it's a unique chance for these men in their 80s and 90s to share stories and see the planes they knew well.
They understand them when you talk. I mean, when you get into the conversation, you can understand each other.
Then you develop new friends that you hope to see in the next reunion.
Here we have quite a collection of vintage and some World War II aircraft all under one roof. They seem to enjoy the collection.
Clifford Underwood got a chance to see aircraft he flew in his younger years.
When I was going through the aviation cadet program, I was 18, and the first thing in my career there was flying a Stearman biplane. Oh, that just tugs your heartstrings. They're just a beautiful airplane.
One high point was a ride through the clouds in a Lockheed Lodestar.
I wouldn't even think I was going to go flying again, but here I am sitting in the airplane.
The Lockheed Lodestar was part of World War II as a transport cargo airplane. It would tow the gliders into combat area one at a time. And so some of the veterans that we have flew on the Lodestar as well as behind the Lodestar.
These veterans from Arizona, California, and Minnesota know there won't be many more reunions to come.
It's true. I'm 92 years old.
I'm losing personal friends and regaining new ones.
There was a couple guys that I knew in the service that used to come, and they've passed away.
I'm thankful for the opportunities that I've been able to succeed in this in flying.
With many dark and bright days behind them, this one made them smile.
I see the skyline of Minneapolis. We flew right over my house.
Flight was just beautiful.
Brings back old times.
Sure.
Nice to have you aboard.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
You're so welcome, sir.
Boy, that'll be a memory now.
Well, that's good.
The 45th annual reunion is scheduled for next fall in Memphis, Tennessee. Thanks for watching Community Close-Up. We leave you with a slightly younger generation learning skills at the Coon Rapids Ice Center that could last a lifetime. I'm Joe Nelson. Thanks for watching.
Let's try that one more time, then we're going to do our least favorite foot.
Tonight we're going to be having our skating classes. This is the 7th week in a 12-week session. Every single year we have 3 to 4 sessions for the last 25 years.
I'm here watching my girls skate.
There you go.
4 girls, ages 4 to 11, and they're all out there. They've come a long way. They started, each of them barely able to stand up on the ice, and now they're scooting around, lifting legs, balancing on one foot on the ice. So they've come far.
And what about my arms? Like this? Pushing down, holding your body steady.
I like skating because sometimes when you're moving, you can get a little crazy and do some jumps and get a little wild. I really want to learn how to skate because before I would be barely able to skate. So I decided I want skating lessons because everybody else is really good at skating. I like coming to these practices because it's a lot of fun because maybe some of your school friends will be here and you don't know that for sure and you can make some new friends and stuff like that.
My aunt kind of got me into skating. She's one of my coaches. It's just a fun sport to do and it's pretty close to home. Well, I like spins a lot. And I have this edges class that I do, and I really like that too.
The first time she skated here, I never thought she would even stand up on skates. I was convinced she wasn't a skater, and now she's spinning with the big girls now. It's a really good program. It's really good structure. There's a lot of good coaches here. They break down in nice sized groups, which is really nice.
Yeah, so what if I do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? Does that count? No. Okay.
Just think, even if you don't want your kids to be figure skaters or hockey players, I think that it's a good skill to have, and I think everybody could use.
1, 2, 3, 2. Yeah! They do a really nice job individualizing their care to each of the kids and where they are. It's great. I have 4, they're all different, and they're all getting something out of it.
We want to give
the Coon Rapids residents and every Minnesotan the opportunity to learn how to skate at any age. We have beginners through adults, and we want everybody to have the chance to experience the thrill to glide across the ice.